Hello there, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Pro and HD video blog for the 13th of June 2013. Glad you could join me this Thursday. Thought I would take a look at the no tropical cyclones at this time graphic. Yeah, things are nice and quiet out there. Nothing to speak of anywhere in the Atlantic Basin, so this is a good sign. And this is typical for this time of June. No surprise that the satellite picture is basically free and clear of any areas of organized convection. Might be a very weak tropical wave right there, maybe another one right there, but boy, those are weak. And there's quite a bit of African dust, dry air, stable air. That's very typical of this time of year. Pressures starting to rise over the North Atlantic up here. Trade winds pretty strong, and typical that we see a lack of activity from the latter part of June, mid to latter June, through most of July. Then when we get into August, things start to change, and in dramatic fashion. Small area of disturbed weather in the Bahamas, nothing tropical about it except that it's down in the tropics. No tropical cyclone development expected, neither with this little blob here off the coast of Costa Rica, Panama, that region, and then just some scattered convection in the western Gulf. None of the global computer models indicating any development in this area through the weekend at least. Looking at the eastern Pacific, this is a nice hemispheric shot. Very quiet in the eastern Pacific, no areas of convection noted at all. A little bit of scattered but disorganized convection out in the central Pacific north of the equator, which is right here. And again, no areas are forecast to develop by any of the long-range models in this region for the next several days, mainly because we're in a downward phase of the MJO pulse. There's no real mechanism for that upward motion right now, but that might change where we start to see the convection increase from west to east, and I would expect that we'll see something develop in the eastern Pacific within probably the next 10 days, and then sometime after that, maybe something developing in the Western Caribbean. And this fits in very nicely as we track the MJO, that Madden-Julian oscillation, that wave of favorability in the upper levels of the atmosphere. This is outlined pretty well on the Global Tropics Hazards and Benefits Outlook issued by the Climate Prediction Center, and this was issued yesterday. And what it does is it shows you the tropical regions of the globe here and the different benefits and hazards associated with the MJO. If it's the wet phase, then you typically get an increase in moisture or above average rainfall, which is indicated in the green here, and that corresponds with a high confidence level when you see the solid green. If it was hatched like that, then it's a moderate confidence, so not as much confidence is another way to look at it. And then the red area is your tropical cyclone formation, and they have high confidence that something will form, as you can see right there. And this is way over in the western Pacific, by the way, in the maritime continent region that we talked about on the MJO discussion yesterday. So this is where the rather weak but still present MJO currently is situated, and then throughout the rest of the Pacific, really no indication of that at all. In fact, you have some below normal rainfall chances farther east in the tropical Pacific, right along the equator. So then in the Caribbean, a little bit of an above normal rainfall pattern with a slight chance of tropical cyclone formation. It's hard to see that, but there is that little red and white striped icon or outline, whatever you want to call it, right there. So between now and the 18th, a little bit of a chance of something developing. Probably not going to see it, but nonetheless, there's enough, I guess, data in the models and what they're looking at that they suggest that maybe something will come along. But a better chance, I think, in week 2. This is valid June 19th through the 25th, and this is when that MJO should start to spread to the east, and we see that tropical cyclone formation area expand a little bit. It doesn't increase. They're not going to put a high confidence outlook that far out, I don't think. But what this is showing is that MJO, as weak as it is, should spread eastward across the globe here and eventually favor the Western Caribbean, the Bay of Campeche area, southern Gulf of Mexico, by the time we reach the end of the month. Other than that, it's going to be a nice weekend ahead once that gets here. No worries from the tropics once again. And I have to emphasize, this is very typical for June. I know we had Andrea, and that created a lot of news and people talking about it. And, you know, that's a rare event. You don't typically get name storms in June. It's not every year. At least that's not what the long-term averages show us. And so it's going to be probably another 2 weeks before we see the chance of something developing again. And for most people, that's just fine and dandy. The longer the better, right? Have yourselves a great rest of your Thursday. I'll try to do the same. Stay hydrated and cool out there if you're watching where it's hot and muggy. And always keep an eye to the sky, especially if you're up in the mid-Atlantic states and even portions of the southeast. Why don't you check weather.gov or the SPC site, Storm Prediction Center, just to make sure that you're aware of any severe weather potential. After all, it's still severe weather season, and it's not just the tropics that can get you. I want to keep you safe out there. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. Thanks again for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with another video blog.